District Director update. I hope today to share with you a little bit about what I have learned as a district director over the past 4 years and where I see our profession and our NATA and our strategic alliance going over the next few years. We're going to have time for question and answer at the end from myself. We have representation from the foundation here. We have representation on the screen shortly from the BOC. And we obviously have our Katie president in our district. So we have the access to all the strategic alliance should we have questions or want to talk about stuff. So I'm hoping to present, I'm hoping to introduce, and then I'm hoping to take questions and go from there. So I appreciate you guys getting up bright and early. And it's a pleasure to see people after 3 years. We talk about the pandemic being a year and a half of 3 weeks of flattening the curve, but it's really been 3 years. And so 2019 was the last time we were together, and that was in April, so 3 years ago. So it's awesome to see you. I appreciate everybody that came. I know it's far for Wyoming and other places, right? Dan, I see you there. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope that we continue to grow, get back to what we know we can do at these symposiums and spend some time together in the future. So with that, I will get started. Waiting for a clicker. Well, I appreciate that. So I'll open up. It's been a challenging, obviously, few years, and lots of things have happened over the last 3. And I wanted to open up with just a recognition, thank you, that we have lost members permanently. We have lost members in our profession. We have lost time, right? We have lost experiences. We've gained new things, but there's lots of touch points that we don't have anymore. And so I'd like to just take a minute to recognize people like Marie, people like Dr. Draper, people that are influential in our district, and those that we didn't recognize, they're just as important. We may not know about them. So for a minute or a moment, if you don't mind, just kind of thinking about the last few years, and there are memories and impact that cannot be measured. And so, take a second. Thank you. All right, so first things first, right? I'd like to give some accolades and some data for you guys to reflect back on what District 7 has done over the past few years and continues to do. We have 40 Safe Sport School recipients in our district. I'd like to recognize Utah. I think Utah had an entire district, maybe this last year, put in the Safe Sport School Award. I saw, as a district director, I get the emails of who's getting the awards, and the response email that I would send congratulations to was the same email for 4 or 5 schools. So I'm assuming that somebody sponsored that effort, but I saw quite a few coming out of Utah this year, so congratulations. But that is connected to the past in the future, and one of our obviously hallmark practice settings. And those of you that can wave that banner and share that with your students and your administration and your communities is a testament to the health care that we provide at the secondary school setting. So 40 of us that are currently active. Obviously, you have to renew that to maintain your active level. We've had many over the years, but 40 is still an excellent number. NATA Leadership Academy. This started a few years ago, and if you don't know about this, this is a relatively free program. I think the entire thing is maybe $35 once you buy a book and some of the materials, but the Leadership Academy is geared towards preparing members for leadership and association involvement. So it has 2 components. So if you're interested in association participation, but you want some background, you want to make sure you're not jumping in, unprepared. And so I've done my best to look at applicants for our District 7 positions, and if I have 2 applicants that are equally strong, that have all the same level of resources to offer, If one of them has the Leadership Academy graduate certificate and one doesn't, that's where I go. So it's important. I know we have a few people that have completed that. I can see a few that are in the room that are currently in progress, so thank you for doing that, and congratulations if you're one of the 15. NATA has not happened in person, right, the last 2 years, and as a result, some of our most distinguished members of District 7 have not been formally recognized. And so, I don't know if Bart Peterson is in here, but he is incoming NATA Hall of Fame in this class. And he has done a tremendous amount of work for the RMATA, for the AZATA, and for the YOATA, and for the profession. So if you see him, he's roaming around, please recognize him. Mark Laton, who is our NATA PAC chair, also a District 7 member, was inducted into the NATA Hall of Fame in 2020 and has not been recognized because we have not had a meeting. So he too will be recognized in Philadelphia. If you didn't have a chance to listen to his presentation as the NATA PAC fundraiser, it was awesome. You hear about every ring that he had and how he established health care for the umpires and how he created a relationship with the Japanese Athletic Trainers Association, and those athletic trainers now get Hall of Fame rings or championship rings like we do here, and previous to his work, they did not. It was an awesome presentation. He went through all his rings, and I was lucky enough to be there and say, and he has one more ring coming in Philadelphia, which is his Hall of Fame ring. So if you get a chance, please introduce yourself and recognize him. And then Dr. Kenny Lamb, he is obviously an AT still rock star. Big Data Kenny, if you don't know, that's his passion. But he is now a fellow, and so we've had some big names in our districts recognized in the last few years, and so they are on site. Please introduce yourself and say congratulations. So, the BOC, at the request of the NATA, has taken on the board certification specialty in orthopedics. We had our first exam this past year, or this current year and this past season, and we have three, thank you. I got it, who's controlling? Who's controlling me? Or you? There you go. All right, just making sure. So we had three graduates, 3 credential holders. This is huge. This goes back to those of you that practice in the emerging settings and the advocacy that we've had for specialties and extra training to assist us in those different practice settings. And so orthopedics is one of the first ones that we felt as a profession was an area that we need to weigh into. And so after many years, you know, the emerging settings discussion, the COPA discussion, the non-traditional discussion has been going for a long time. And these type of certifications do not happen overnight. And so this is many years in the making, and we have 3 graduates in our district. Are any of them here by chance? I think they may be in Colorado and maybe in Utah. But congratulations to them. This is a hallmark for our profession of what's to come in the future. The NATA PAC, if you didn't get to attend the conference or the event this morning, the PAC is our single voice at the federal level. So those of you that are interested in why don't we have this, or why can't we have this, or we should have this, or CMS, or Sports Medicine Licensure Clarity Act, or presenting at Congress, all those things, that's the PAC at work. So it requires donations to make that happen. And we call the money that you provide to the foundation donations, the money you provide to the PAC contributions. And so it requires contributions. And we currently have 126 recurring monthly contributors, which is awesome. 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, it's almost 4 years, when Chris Mathewson took the position as our NATA PAC district director, we had 7 monthly contributors. So in the last 3.5 years, Chris has helped us, and you have listened, and we are now at 126. So it's amazing work. I wish Chris could be here, but his family life called, and he could not be, so I want to formally recognize him for all the work he's done. And then we have the NATA Research and Education Foundation Circle of Champions donors, which is much the same. monthly recurring contributions. And obviously this is for educational purposes, right? And research and advancement of the profession. And we have a representative here. I'll introduce them in a second. But if you'd like more information on that, if you'd like to figure out how to donate, if you'd like to figure out what they provide, Michelle's on site for that. So some serious congratulations. So I don't know if you're in the room, if you're on this list. I didn't want to put names because inevitably you would forget a name, right? It's easier to self-recognize. But thank you very much to all those people that have been recognized and all the work that you do. Yeah. All right, so I want to talk just a little bit about the Strategic Alliance and give a shout out to a couple of things that I see as a District 7 director and a member of the RMATA that I feel are very valuable and things that impact me at the ground level that each of the members of the Alliance are handling for us. And first thing first, I want to spend some time on this graphic. I honestly, not that I like to listen to social media, right, because it's very polarizing, but there's a lot of confusion in social media on what the Alliance does and who in the Alliance does what. And so I need to make sure that before we leave here, this may be my single greatest takeaway, that this is a formal relationship that we have involved in, and it's much, much like a marriage. That relationships have to be built, communication has to be had, and when you do it right, it works very well. And so I want to make sure that you understand that that's our stance, and as much as the questions of this district that I bring back that are very directed, and I've taken all the questions back, every question that has been posed to me, I want you to know that I have taken them back and asked those questions. But in the end, this is a relationship that we have to strengthen and is doing awesome work. And so I want to make sure I spend a second to talk about each of the Alliance members and what they do. And then we have Dr. René Shingles on site through Zoom to talk about the BOC here in a second. So you will have the ability to listen directly from that Alliance member and ask questions should you have some. So, I'm going to back up one. Can you back me up just one? Pardon me? No, that was a presenter. Okay, back here. So if you look underneath each of the pillars, and we can start with the NATA, right? Our role in the Alliance is advocacy and professional development. So how do we assist in your professional growth? And how do we advocate for you as an athletic trainer and a member of the association? Things like NATA PAC are advocacy efforts. Things like At Your Own Risk are advocacy efforts, right? Tailored education and Copacon and the secondary schools, virtual presentations, and the traveling past presentations that the NATA offers are all examples of professional development. So that's our wheelhouse as the NATA. Right? CATIE is the accreditation and the quality improvement and assurance in our educational process. The BOC is certification and consumer protection, right? That's why we have credentialing. I was asked that question the other day. Why do we have credentialing? We don't need it. Well, there's a reason that's bigger than the job that you may have, but it is consumer protection and verification that our education is working and that we can then advocate for our members because they have that level. And then obviously the foundation is research and scholarship, advancement of where we're headed, understanding what we're doing. And I want to make sure that you have a chance to pass through, if it's still up, the poster presentations. I've advocated at the NATA level that those should be at the beginning. When you walk in, you have to walk through them to get to the exhibit hall or to other places, because that's cutting edge research. It's not even published yet. So we want to know like what's coming in the future. It's on the posters. So I'm thinking that should be at the forefront of our discussion, not at the back of the room. So we'll continue to advocate that. And I know Valerie has some questions about that. And NATA as a staff and as a board does listen. So those questions do come up and they do get addressed. So that's the Alliance. And as a group, we function for the profession. Right? And yes, the NATA, if you go back far enough, in the early 70s, the NATA was all of these. We did have the PEC, and we did have the competencies, and we did support research, and we did have the certification process, all within the NATA. But growth does happen, and if you want to scale, you want to become bigger, you want to hit international efforts, you want to go after things like CMS and public recognition, you can't put it all under one umbrella. You have to have people that are experts in that area that support the effort. And so the Strategic Alliance was created. And so if you have questions on that, we have all members of the Strategic Alliance available, and they're excellent representatives of our district, and they'll answer the questions. And you can ask the tough questions. That's what we're here for. We're not here to pontificate and tell you about what we think, what somebody else thinks. It's about discussion and debate and point and counterpoint. And then that message goes forward. I want to make sure that we understand that we, as an association, are the NATA. We are the RMATA, we are the individual states. It is us. So do not look at this as a line that's we're on the other side of it. It doesn't work that way. And so I'm here to offer some time to Dr. Shingles here in a second and thank her for joining us. I think continuous professional certification, which the BOC is leading right now, is a tremendous point of discussion within the Alliance. And so better than me trying to explain it, we have the president of the BOC here to explain it. And then you can ask your questions, get your clarification, or maybe bring up things that we still need to clarify as the Alliance. And so we're on site for that. And so at this moment, I would like to introduce Dr. René Shingles. She's on the screen. I'm going to do your bio here, Dr. Shingles, but one, thank you for coming. Definitely appreciate it. I don't know what time it is where you are. Hopefully it's later than our time. But much appreciated on a weekend for her to join us. And so I would like to introduce her by reading her bio so you understand what she offers to our profession and to the BOC. So Dr. René Revis Shingles, PhD, ATC, is the president of the Board of Certification Board of Directors. As an educator, author, and servant leader, Dr. René Revis Shingles has served the profession of athletic training for 30-plus years. She currently serves as the president of the Board of Certification Board of Directors and is the first African American to hold the position. I'm just going to pause there because that's awesome. Additionally, for the BOC, she has chaired or been a member of numerous committees, volunteered as a certification examination examiner and item writer, and as a vice president. In her day job, Dr. Shingles is a professor in and internship coordinator of the athletic training program at Central Michigan University. In speaking with Dr. Shingles, I was happy to kind of tie back in that those of you that know Junaid, she was an MSU graduate. She left New Mexico State and worked with Dr. Shingles, and so we have a connection directly from New Mexico to Dr. Shingles, which I'm quite proud of because Junaid is awesome. She has written numerous research articles, is a co-author of Cultural Competence in Sports Medicine and Patient-Centered Care in Sports Medicine, to be released later this year, both with Ms. Lauren Cartwright. Additionally, she is currently writing a third textbook. Dr. René Shingles holds a BA in Education degree, Health and Physical Education, from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, a Master's of Science degree in Athletic Training from Illinois State University, and a PhD in Kinesiology with cognates in psychosocial aspects of sport and physical activity, sociology, and curriculum and instruction from Michigan State University. She has provided athletic training services for high school, collegiate, recreational, Special Olympians, and the elite level athletes, including being a member of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team medical staff. Dr. Shingles has received many national, regional, state, and local awards for outstanding teaching, leadership, professional, and community service. In 2018, she became the first African American woman inducted into the National Athletic Trainers Association Hall of Fame. So I'm going to give you a clap for that one. She recently served on the NATA's inaugural LGBTQ+ Advisory Committee. In addition to her full professional life, Dr. Shingles loves making time to mentor students. So Dr. Shingles, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming, and the floor is yours. Hold on one second, we can't hear you. Give me 1 second. Can you speak again? Not yet. One more time. It looks like you're muted. Are you muted on your screen by chance? Try that.
No.
You're coming. Keep going.
Hello, hello, hello.
There you go. We have you now.
Yay! Well, good morning. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you. Thank you for that warm introduction, and thank you, RMATA, for letting me hang out with you a little bit this morning. I appreciate it. Yes, I am René Revis Shingles, and I'm the president of the BOC from now until 2023, unless they kick me out or something. But so far, so good. We're having a good time, and I am pleased. You in many roles. I'm currently the board diversity, equity, and advocacy strategies committee, and I previously served on the BSc cultural diversity panel. And what else have I done? Role delineation and oversight boards and NATA executive committee. I've been involved with the NATA REF. So I've been involved with actually all 4 pillars of the strategic alliance. And so it's a great opportunity now to serve in the role of president for the BOC. I do want to give some BOC updates. So if you can move my my PowerPoint, or if you want me to share mine, whichever works on your end. And again, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so just to give some of our BOC updates, we have 2 new AT board positions that are open. And so there's a call for directors. It'll be distributed in May. So if you're interested in serving on the board of directors, be on the lookout for the call and the information needed. That'll come out in May. We have 5 ATs who have passed the BOC orthopedic specialty exam and became BCS-O. That's going to be a mouthful to remember, but congratulations to them who passed in February. It brings our complete total to 31 individuals to date. And we know we have Joe Seigan and Chad Derby out in your area. Aurora, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Atchison and JJ Worthington are also information. You can visit our orthopedics BOC website. You can always find information on our website. The latest practice analysis, or PA8, as we say for short, is now available, and it is effective for BOC athletic training exam beginning in March, April 2023. So that's 2023. So that's the next year testing cycle when it will go into effect. So for those of you in educational programs, that'll give you an idea of getting ready for the next version of the PA8. And it will be for recertification activities starting January 1, 2024. So for recert, we have about 2 years, and we have a year for the new exam. The BOC is requesting nominations for the following awards. The Dan Libera Service Award, recognizing long-standing contributions to the BOC. The Denise Vandal Award of Excellence, recognizing excellence in mentoring others in the athletic training profession. And thirdly, the Paul Grace Leadership Award, recognizing excellence in developing, designing, and/or implementing programs and practices which contributed to the mission of the BOC. For more information regarding how to nominate someone for an award, email Stephanie Houston, volunteer and board of directors relationship manager at stephanie.h@bocatc.org. So, and if you're not sure about that and can't remember that, just call the national office and we'll get you connected to Stephanie. We're excited to be back in person in Philly. So please come and visit us at the booth in June. Next slide, please. So I'd like to talk a little today ongoing development of CPC, or continuing professional certification. I'll provide you with some background details, and I'll include what our vision is and the evolving of that vision, what is happening currently, what's happening now, and what are some opportunities you can do to be a part of our ongoing research and development process. So these are the information I'm going to speak with you about. The goal is to find out how our AT-centric certification renewal program can advance our profession as a leader in healthcare and provide education options which work for everyone. Finally, I will map out where CPC development is and where it's headed and what our next steps are. So, and after that, I will take any questions that you will have. Next slide, please. So there are two key questions related to our work. So how do we make CPC valuable, simple, and streamlined? Next. And the second question, how do we ensure CPC enables the ability to keep up with best practices for athletic training as a profession and ensuring the public safety? Next, please. So our evidence has shown that continuing education practice alone is not enough, and that's outdated. Overall, recommended guidance for healthcare professionals is to have requirements for continuing competence and maintenance of certification, which are grounded in the National Academy of Medicine's core competencies. So those competencies are to provide patient-centered care, to work in interdisciplinary teams, employ evidence-based practice, apply quality improvement, and utilize informatics. Next slide, please. Certification, otherwise known as certification renewal through continuing education, is changing in healthcare. And together, we are shaping the new certification renewal concept for ATs by ATs. So to be clear, CPC, or continuing professional education, is not recertification by exam. Let me state that again. Our CPC is not recertification by exam. The concept is focused on lifelong learning and is meant to provide ATs flexibility and to map out your individualized professional development plan. And this should be based on your preferred learning style, your professional goals, and your practice setting. We're looking to meet professionals where they are and giving ATs choices and flexibility for equitable and affordable continuing education. So we are healthcare professionals, and we owe it to our patients, to our profession, to keep our knowledge and our training sharp and to keep it current and utilizing best practice. Next slide, please. So the specifics of CPC are a work in process. The goal is to provide educational options to ATs which are relevant to daily work, putting you more in control. The three focus areas of the pillars are support CPC and align with what most of the healthcare world is doing. So the educational options listed are as presented. Can you hit the next? Thank you very much. So professionalism. So this is the PGA, the Professional Goals Appraisal. NCE are currently available for ATs for opportunity with the PGAs to determine what your individual goals are and how you would like to progress through your continuing education. Next. And then the continuing professional education, the CE portion, you're already familiar with that. That's what we're doing now. The CAMs, or the competence assessment modules, this is the opportunity when you will read and you will answer some questions associated with your reading. And this will help you stay on top of some of the latest development and research. Next. And then thirdly, we have the practice performance, and that is the quality improvement, or the QIs. And QIs tap into the work that you are already doing to find an aspect of your practice that can benefit from improvement, such as addressing infection control or implementing a new best practice. You determine what you want to improve, and you put that into practice, and then you provide a brief write-up about what it is that you did. So more detailed examples of QIs in practice can be found in our CPC FAQs section on the BOC website. Next, please. So there are many steps in this process, and we've heard many voices along the way as a part of this journey. You can see we have our stakeholder feedback. The CPC concept has a great deal of AT involvement and will continue to do so as we move forward. The graphic visualizes the process of development and outlines the impact of volunteers throughout. We have had a CPC task force and more than the past several years. By the time the concept is shaped for and by ATs. And as you can see there, we have the focus groups and what we call the power panel. I'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. And the information that we glean from the stakeholders, which are our ATs and other stakeholders as well, information will move up to additional research and development as a part of individual work groups who will tackle different portions of CPC. And then all of that will be pulled together by the task force. And then the task force will make recommendations to the board of directors, and the board of directors will make a final decision on what the CPC will look like. Next slide, please. And so what's next? You can volunteer, you can get involved in this process. We're asking you to get involved in this process. And we're currently in the research and development, and we did a call for volunteers to gain a wide range of perspectives from ATs. We had more than 300 ATs apply to participate, but the time has not closed. You can still, apply to participate if you are interested. We would love to hear your voice. The focus groups will be happening in April, and we'll be looking at different aspects of the CPC and asking questions of those focus groups. And they have a wide range of ATs are represented in those groups. So you can still get involved. The CPC work group member, that group works alongside the subject matter experts to kind of refine and develop the concepts. And then we also have what we call our BOC Power Panel members. This is ongoing opportunities. And for those individuals, we'll have specific questions periodically over time. So ask you certain questions and add additional information. So that's a small burst of page. So whether you want a longer term involvement or you want a shorter term involvement, either of those can work. So just fill out the paperwork at our BOC website and get involved. Next slide, please. So there's a QR code there for you. Feel free to take a picture of it. It will take you to the CPC overview. Look for more updates in our research and development, and more details and background about CPC are available again on our website. You can scan the code and it will take you to the link bocatc.org/CPC-overview. So hopefully this is giving you a little bit more information about what we're doing with CPC, where we are in the process. Invite you to participate. Again, we want this, not only is it for ATs, it is by ATs. So we want your feedback. So at this time, I will entertain any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shingles. I appreciate your time. This is an opportunity. We obviously have 18 more minutes for you to ask questions directly if you have questions or concerns or clarification that you didn't quite catch there. There was a few times, Dr. Shingles, that we lost you for a second or two, but I think that the message was clear. So, any questions for Dr. Shingles?
Just meant I was on commercial break.
If you do have questions, please go to one of the microphones. You have a few questions coming here.
Yes, and I'll try to write them down, and if I don't know the answer, we'll get the answer and get it back to you.
Hi, Dr. Shingles, it's Margie Hunt. Just a quick question on the practice improvement, I think that was the category. For individuals that are perhaps taking a little time away from athletic training or are part-time, what can you enlighten us on what has been discussed as far as people in that stage of life meeting that criteria, how they'll go about that if they're not working regularly in practice right now? Thank you.
Thank you, Marty, for that question. And we have talked about that, ATC or PT or per diem in that regard. And so one of the things to keep in mind is the ATC credential is just that. It is a practice credential. So in order to have the credential, doesn't mean we have to make sure that you're able to practice and provide care to patients and protect the public. So the harder part might be, as some have thought about it, is the QI. How do I do a quality improvement if I'm not always practicing with the same people or in the same space? So it might be ways of thinking about what do you do even as a PRN athletic trainer that you want to improve with the practice that you give. So maybe it's if you have to document in a different kind of way because you're working with different types of people. So maybe you develop a system to help you to track your patients or your patient information, or a way that helps you to stay connected to a patient or someone that you might have worked with once or twice, or gather that information. So then you would develop what that's going to look like, put that into practice, and then tell us about that as a part of your QI. The other thing that you might consider doing, if there are athletic trainers that you know of in the area who are also working PRN, is there something that you all could potentially do together? Or is at a high school, or athletic trainers at a hospital, or at a college or university, somewhere that might be nearby. But what is it that you as the AT might want to do to improve your practice in athletic training? You can do that whether it's just you and you put it into practice with the individuals that you wind up working with, or you work collectively with someone. So that's a way that you can work towards that. I think the other thing that's going to be helpful as we develop the CAMs, this is where you're doing reading and learning about different information, and then answering several questions associated with that. That can be individualized regardless of whether or not you're practicing full-time or whether you're practicing part-time. The CEs are the same as we have known them. That won't change. And then your goals might look a little bit different as a person who may be practicing part-time. What is it that you want to know and need to know as an individual who is practicing by themselves, so to speak, as a PRN individual? So you get to set those goals. So there's still ways, I think, to make that work for individuals who are working PRN or who are working part-time. So thank you for that question, Marty. I appreciate that. I hope that answers your question.
Hi, Dr. Shingles. My name is Lindsay Lochran, and I am a clinically practicing athletic trainer, but this question, kind of branching on the previous question, pertaining to quality improvement. There are a lot of ATs who aren't practicing clinically at all. Educators, some practice managers, and the AT credential is required by the employee because they want that person to be an AT, but if they're not clinically practicing and they're in an education setting, how does that QI come into play for them without, like you said, that additional burden that we're trying to avoid?
Great administration, so to speak. That would be that end of it, in clinical of some sort. Remember, we do have healthcare administration as one of the domains of athletic training. So what are policies or that you might want to develop, or processes that you might want to develop in order to help your clinic or your athletic training facility run better? So I would encourage people who are in that type of setting in terms of the healthcare administration to look at quality improvement in how to administer athletic training facilities and how to set your policies and your procedures associated with that. What do you want to do to improve a policy or, like I said, a procedure in the administrative realm? So I think we sometimes forget that we have that administrative realm. When you're talking about educators, I'm in that space too. I'm an educator. I also still practice. We have a athletic training facility in our recreation facility, so I also provide some services there. It is a little bit tougher there when you're not practicing in that sense, but how do you develop processes with your students? If you're an educator in colleges and universities, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to have athletic trainers working at your institution. How do you work collaboratively with them to help them with a process that they might want to improve? As an educator, if you're also a researcher on that side of that, you're going to bring some knowledge in a research process that can help them to develop a certain process that takes place in that athletic training facility. And depending upon the scope of it, and depending upon what you want to do, you can get students involved in what that QI might be to have improvement that takes place in the athletic training facility. It could be more longitudinal type of research if you would like it to be that way. So therefore, it could also help the educator in terms of tenure and promotion by writing up what you're doing and collecting data on what you're doing and publishing. But that can be that partnership between on a quality improvement project that benefits everyone. It benefits the patients. If the students are involved, they learn about quality improvement types of projects. And if it's big enough in scope, then it could also be something that helps the educator with regard to their tenure and promotion and reappointment activities.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Krasner Walsh, and I actually work non-clinically in emerging setting in a very interdisciplinary team approach. And numerous of my peers' credentials have implemented something almost identical to what we're trying to implement, and it has been unsuccessful. And the following reporting cycle, they have reverted back to the previous plan of action. How are we setting it up to be successful when so many other credentials have not?
Well, there've been, I'm assuming that not all have been unsuccessful in terms of that particular credential, but that's why we're listening to and bringing stakeholders to the table as we develop the plan that we are doing. I would encourage you to share with me or share with the BOC what has made them unsuccessful. What were the issues that happened that made it unsuccessful so that we don't repeat those? So we need to hear those stories as well so that we can learn from both the successes and the failures that other organizations have done. And so listening to, like I said, our stakeholders, trying to gather the best evidence and practice for how we're going forward. And we hope then that will allow us to have a successful CPC project. But I would encourage you, Lauren, to share the information that you have learned from your particular colleagues, or if your colleagues would be interested to share that, or those colleagues would be interested to share that. Or some other type of means. We would love to hear that information from you.
Excellent. I appreciate your time, Dr. Shingles. If there are more questions, you're welcome to send them to the BOC, to Dr. Shingles or myself, and we will make sure we transfer the questions to them. They do have a FAQ page on their website, and we can add to that as needed, right? Definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, absolutely. You know, as we hear questions that are not in our FAQ, then we make sure that we devise answers and put them back out there. So your questions are valued. We hear you, we heard you, and we want to continue to make this the best continuing professional CPC, continuing professional certification that we can make it be for AT. So all of those questions that you had, we'll make sure that we get those going forward. Please, please, please share anything, whatever your questions, comments, or concerns might be, please share those with the BOC. We're here to listen and to provide the best CPC that we can. So thank you again for inviting us into your meeting. We appreciate it and look forward to seeing you in Philly. And again, let us know what we can do for you. The BOC is here to serve you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shingles. You're welcome to hang out with us if you'd like for the remaining 10 minutes or so. But as you heard, the open call for the volunteers for those 3 categories of research closed, but Dr. Shingles assured me, and she told you today, that is still open if District 7 would like to participate. So if you have additional questions and comments like Lauren's, I suggest that you participate in one of those so that your voice can be heard and those questions can be answered. Remember that the NATA is us, the BOC is us, the KD is us, and the foundation is us.
Let me add to that. If they can't get into the website, then just send me an email and send me some information. I'll make sure information gets forwarded to them.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have, 5-6 minutes. This presentation will be available, I believe, through the app. So if we don't get through all the pieces, that's fine. You can get to it later. You can find me in the hallway. But I did not want to cut short the BOC presentation because I think it's critical to where we're headed. So thank you for coming in, Dr. Shingles, and I appreciate your time, our membership, to allow the BOC in. A couple things that I wanted to highlight real quick about each of the members. The 2022 salary survey will hit your inboxes on Monday. So that data is out. We usually do that every 2 years. It was a 3-year process because of COVID. And I can share a few pieces with you in advance. There's going to be obviously lots of detail, but some of the highlights that I took away that I think we should know early is the average salary for an AT is $62,000, which is up $4,000 or $5,000 from the last time. The districts that grew the quickest were District 1 and District 7. It does continue with your bachelor's, your master's, and your doctorate all have different averages. Obviously, the higher the degree, the higher. The highest setting in terms of salary is a educator in a research institution, and then second behind that was secondary schools. We do have some pieces of the information that I think we do need to look at. Women continue to have almost $11,000 difference than men, which is a significant problem that we all need to address. And this is not a problem that has just started over COVID. But unfortunately, it was closing the gap prior to COVID, and then the gap is spreading again post-COVID. So we have to look at what that looks like for our profession, for our membership, and the fact that more than half of our members are women. Right? More than half of our members are women. More than half of our members are 12 years of practice or less. And those voices need to be heard because that's where we're headed. So challenge you to reflect on what that looks like in your setting, your institution, under your control and under your influence. Those are things that we need to work on. And so the full data will come out on Monday. I hope you read I think it's going to come out in a range of motion, and then it will be in full detail in the April issue of NATA News. So please look forward to that. There's some exciting stuff in there, and then there's some realistic stuff in there that we need to address. And we continue to address. It's not like we are not trying it, but we need to continue, and we need to make more and additional and more impactful efforts to do so. The foundation has the athletic training research agenda, which has some excellent pieces in there about healthcare informatics, healthcare policy, and many of the things that I think we need as a profession to achieve that Domain 5 healthcare administration level in full, and also for a national recognition at the CMS level. So there's lots of data that's under that healthcare, under the athletic training research agenda that is guiding what we're identifying as future research efforts. And then for the KD, they're reestablishing and reorganizing their volunteer structure to better support the residencies and the foundations. And so residencies and the fellowships. And so if you're interested in one of those pieces or interested in developing one of those pieces, the KD has updated the website. It's much easier to use. There are short videos that you can watch to help guide your efforts, and they're creating structure internally that allows for them to support those questions. And then we heard from the BOC on continuous professional certification. Your representatives, I'm not sure if Kim Detweiler is here, Dr. Sowers, myself, Michelle Gonzalez, if you don't mind standing, Michelle, so they know who you are. Right. Good. So there are access points within our district to reach the Alliance, and I urge you to do so, even if it's just to ask questions. I think many times the questions are more powerful than the answers, in all honesty. So the PAC, we had an event this morning. This is a video I was going to play for you. I'm going to pause it. You can play it on your phone when you look at the slide deck because it's 2.5 minutes. But it describes what the purpose of the PAC is and how you can participate. And Mark Laton, if you don't mind standing up. Mark Laton is here. He's our District 7 member and the PAC chair, also incoming Hall of Fame. Congratulations, sir. Okay, so these are some of the initiatives that the NATA is working on, and I'll let you read through them. You can ask me questions throughout, but these are initiatives that our committees and our task forces and work groups have identified as critical points for the profession to move forward, and so a few of them there for you to look at. I personally sit on the Compensation Task Force, the Public Health Task Force, and the DEIA Task Force. So I can speak highly to those. The other ones I can get you in contact with people that do sit on those efforts. So what are the board strategies? So obviously we have 11 board members, right? District 11 is new. We had 10, now we have 11, and the president. And these are many of the strategies that we've been talking about for many years, but have kind of continued to bring forward in our recent vision casting process that we did in January. But these are things that we feel as an association from a professional development and advocacy level need to be addressed. I'm going to go to the bottom one first, which I would have liked to have built up to that so you can understand the value of everything you're getting for your dollar. But it is important that I spend a minute to talk about the discussion of possibly raising NATA dues. So we haven't raised NATA dues since 2011. The NATA dues are currently $150. The RMATA dues are $60, and your state is individual. So when you register as an NATA member and you pay your dues, you're paying all three of those. So when we say raising dues, we're talking about the $150 component of the dues is the part that we're looking at raising. And keep in mind that both the district and the states have raised dues over the last 11 years, and the NATA has not. It's important to discuss that right now because many of the initiatives that we do as NATA, such as the GAC grants, such as scholarships, such as the SAC Leadership Fellowship, lots of initiatives that we know are extremely important have been paused to maintain the fiduciary responsibility that we have as a board member to push for the association to be a viable organization. So as a board member, we look at the profession, obviously, and we look at the association. We're managing two things, right? And the association cannot support the profession without a stable ground. And don't get confused that we're not stable now. We're just like the RMATA and have made excellent decisions over the past years and have money in reserves to do this. But the question is, how long do you want to pull from the reserves? Or how long do we want to continue without GAC grants? And that's the question at hand. And how long do we want to continue to keep our rates where they are, although inflation is through the roof? These are serious questions, and so in June, the board of directors, in consultation with their districts, which I'm doing right now, will vote on what we should do. There will not be more than a 20% increase, which means that 150 could go to 180. So you may see a $30 change, or it could be zero. I have to take back the vote of District 7, the RMATA, so I appreciate you finding me in the hallway, emailing me after this, calling me. My cell phone's on the end. It's on every one of my emails. I need to hear what you're thinking. It is very unfortunate that we're dealing in the time that we're coming off of COVID and there's lots of instability. But know that this discussion was a discussion in 2019, and when 2020 hit, we paused it. And 2021 hit, we paused it. And in those years, we have pulled from reserves in our investment accounts to continue what we currently have, which is not what you're used to. And so we have many positions at the NATA level that need to be filled that support our committees. We have probably 6 to 8. We have many grants that need to be provided to support our states. All of that has been paused, and we have still had to pull from reserves. So the question becomes, do we want to continue like we are and build back over a longer period of time? And the expectation is our full return to convention and membership probably won't return until 2025, 2026. Or do we want to get back sooner and understand the value and discuss the value and maybe improve the value of your dollar? So that's the discussion between now and June. And so please reach out to me and talk to me about that. I would love to hear your thoughts. It's very important to hear when you're practicing, you're not practicing, you're in education, you're in different settings. All those have different voices. I'll get you in a second. So please do that. Lastly, this is the structure of the NATA. I share this in every presentation pretty much because prior to me coming into NATA leadership in 2013, I always thought it was our board of directors that made decisions and pushed things down, and that's how we work. It's not like that. It's very rarely like that. It's more that you have districts and states coming up with ideas and sharing those ideas to the committee reps, which we had a meeting last night so that you can meet them. And then those committee reps bring information to the committees or ideas. And a committee chair, a staff, NATA staff liaison, and a board liaison are assigned as a triangle of leadership to discuss and debate those ideas, and then those are brought forward to the board of directors. That's probably how 85% of our stuff happens. In the last 2 years, we flipped it a little bit because we felt at the NATA board of director level that we had to make decisions because of the pandemic. But traditionally, it's the other way around, and I give that to you so that you know that your voice matters and you do have a point to get there. You can obviously come speak to me anytime, and I can take things forward as well, but there is a structure in place where your voice can be heard and your participation can be felt. And so I want to make sure that you understand that's how that works, and that's why we are NATA. There are 31 plus committees in the NATA. The district director in this district has an hour to present on them. Other district directors in other districts have 5 to 10 minutes. One of the reasons is our district has very few committees that reflect the committees of the NATA, right? And so I'm expected to share through myself and through the District 7 member representatives what's happening in those committees. That's very hard to do for 31 committees and do that just in an hour. So if you scan this code, this will take you to the joint committee reports for every committee where they tie their initiatives of the past and the future to the NATA strategic plan. Now, they're not written for public consumption, so I give you a little caution when you read it. It might not sound like it's meant for you, but you get the information and you know who the person that's leading that is, and you can call them and contact them. So please do scan that. That's what we do at joint committee meeting. All those people come together, they all present, and we go from there. Volunteer opportunities. And I am going to exit the stage because I have presenters after me, and I apologize and thank you very much for the time. So please find me between now and Sunday, or between now and June. Thank you very much.